Well, good morning, viewers. Today we're going to try to replace this in-car temp sensor on this 2010 Kia Forte. There's a little fan motor inside here. It's hard to see it, but there's a little fan inside there, and it circulates or pulls the air from the cab area in this through the sensor. And there's a humidity sensor and a temp sensor in this thing, and the fan inside the sensor is not working, so it's not pulling air. So the sensor gets hot and falsely reports the in-cabin temperature and reduces the performance of the heater. You can override it by turning the heat up, but that's not the proper thing to do. Now this thing is $425 retail Canadian, of course, so that's like $200 American. And we're gonna put it in today, and hopefully it's gonna fix the problem. So here's the little grill where the air circulates from in the cabin through the sensor. So to get at it, we have to pull the dash trim off. I've had this off once, so hopefully it's going to come apart a little easier. These two vents have to be removed on each side. And then the dash trim there, I think there's a couple of screws and there's clips. I've got the car inside the shop nice and warm, but don't try and do this with the plastic being cold, otherwise you're going to break stuff. So let's get started. Oh, by the way, I have a video where I diagnosed it. I'll put a link in the description. So the grills or the vents are held in with retaining clips. And you have to carefully pry it straight out to access these two screws underneath here. Because we have to take the radio out. But this plastic piece comes out too. So that's what you got to do to get the trim off and work it around carefully. That's why I said it's so important that it be warm when you do this. Once you get the two vents out, then you can take the 4 screws out that hold the radio in. But that's not all that holds the radio in. There's clips at the top, clips on the side, and clips at the bottom. Grab it with 2 hands and pull straight towards the back seat, and it's hard to get it out. So once you get it released, then you can disconnect the wires. So that's the radio and HVAC controllers. Just unplug all the electrical plugs. Now that sensor is behind this plastic here, and there's 2 retaining screws. I can feel one at the bottom here, but the other one is at the top, and I was hoping to be able to get it with a ratchet or something, but there's nothing convenient here, and taking this hush panel off might help. But there's 1 screw right up here going up from the bottom. Oh boy. Let me look at this. So remove the plastic trim under the steering wheel. There's 2 screws on the bottom, 2 screws on the side, and some plastic clips. There's a clip here and a clip here, as well as these push pins. And then disconnect the switches. And I took the knee bolster out, the metal reinforcement there. Not that it really helped, but 1 screw I can get at through here. I can feel it. Getting it off is another thing, and the other screw is on this side. So the 2 screws are like here and here, and they're Phillips headed screws. So I'm going to see if I can get in there with a 1/4-inch ratchet. So I managed to get the old one out. I got the bottom screw where you can barely see through this hole here, and with a flexible screwdriver. It's actually a carburetor adjusting tool. But I broke the ear off of the old motor, and now I'm threading the screw out. It's just in the plastic with my finger. There's a little rubber mount on it, I guess, so it doesn't transmit the vibration of the motor into the dash. And now I dropped that plastic. I'll find it. Well, I'm struggling with this. Those little Phillips screws don't stay in there very well. So I swapped them out for some number 1 Robertson screws. And I put some plastic film to hold the screws in place while I try to get it up in there. And I'm going to use this glue point ratcheting box end with an adapter in there. Hopefully. It's challenging at best. I think you're supposed to pull the whole dash off to get at it. Can't get at it from underneath. Can't get at it from the back. Jeez. Well, I managed to get it with the bore scope, the camera, and the carburetor adjusting tool, and a Robertson headed screw because it's more positive. And I used a little piece of cellophane to keep the screw from falling out. But it's in there now, so it's just a matter of reassembling everything. So I'm going to set the temperature to 75. And the in-car temp sensor is reading 79. Looking at it with the thermal camera, it's no longer hot like it was before. That's the center of it right there. The dash is 84. I had the heater on high. There's cool air coming out of the vents now because it's trying to bring the temperature down in here to 75. It's like 85 inside here right now. So I'm thinking this is fixed. It seems to be functioning normal now. I'm going to take it outside and try it. But if there's any, maybe I'll see if I can find the video clip where I was looking at this in-car sensor before. Because that's definitely not hot like it was before. I don't know if you can see that little cooling fan in there with the bore scope. Maybe I'll have a look. Well, you can't see the fan spinning in there, but you can feel the fan spinning by putting a piece of tissue paper on the control or on the grill. If it sticks to it, then the air is being sucked in. Let's turn it off and see what it does. See, it falls off. So it's definitely working now. It wasn't before. So I took the car for a road test, and I noticed that the more I drove it, the cooler it got. The temperature is set at 72 Fahrenheit, but according to the thermal camera, the duct temperature is 61 Fahrenheit. Now, if you look at that temp sensor, it's 90 Fahrenheit. Notice how it's warm inside that temp sensor. Now, I had this problem on a Nissan once where there was a little cooling fan or a little circulation fan in the sensor duct. I don't see that this has that. And there was some, I put a piece of tissue paper over top of it, and it does pull air through it. No, it doesn't. It was before. If I cool that sensor off, then the ambient temperature or the duct temperature, like it's blowing cold air now. It's set at 72, so the outlet temperature should be roughly 72. If you look at the dash is 85, but the actual sensor inside, get the camera in place here where you can see it, is 86. Let's see what it shows on the scan tool right now. Well, the heater works beautiful, but I started it a couple times, took it for a road test, and the MIL is on. So it wasn't on when I brought it in. I know this customer would have mentioned it if it had been on. I did disconnect the battery because I had the dash all apart, but I don't think that has anything to do with it. Let's scan it and see what code it's generated now. So I'm just going to go straight into the engine control computer. I've got it running with the scanner connected to it. Let's see what code it's generating. Map sensor code. Now, I did change the coolant, but I didn't even disturb anything on the engine. I just drained it out of the rad and siphoned it out of the overflow bottle. It says it's current range manifold pressure sensor P0106. Now, it might have something to do with me disconnecting the battery, but that's not typical. Let's look at data, see if it is currently out of range. Pressure sensor voltage is 1.13 right here. And intake manifold inches of mercury is 8.8. Let me turn the key off and see what it goes to. So shut the key off and turn the key back on. 29.2, which is realistic. So why is it setting that code? I'm going to do some research. So I'm in the Snap-on troubleshooter. I'm just going to see if there's anything in here that suggests P0106. Contaminated air cleaner, missing or improperly installed engine oil cap or engine dipstick. Leakage in the intake system, poor connection to a damaged harness, faulty manifold absolute pressure sensor or throttle position sensor. The PCM uses the MAP sensor to calculate the volume of airflow indirectly to determine the fuel injector pulse width, so it's a speed density system. MAP sensor is a speed density type sensor. The MAP sensor sends an analog signal which is equivalent to the change in intake manifold pressure to the PCM. PCM uses this analog signal and the engine speed signal to calculate the amount of airflow. MAP sensor consists of a piezoelectric element and a hybrid IC, which intensifies the output signal of the element. Well, that's beautiful. Well, I'm going to see if there's any cases on it. You got to like it when the code you're about to search for is the #1 search for code on the list. Let's see what the Identifix has to offer. Started out with a manifold absolute barometric pressure circuit range performance code, start and dive, poor acceleration, and the car runs beautiful. Try cleaning the throttle body and doing electronic throttle control system reset and relearn. Clean the throttle body, reset adaptive values with the scan tool. So basically, because I disconnected the battery, it's probably got a coked up throttle body. There's no point changing the sensor because I don't think that's... Here's a case. Remove the battery to replace the clutch. Vehicle now setting P0106 repeatedly. Monitor MAP sensor voltage appears to be okay, like mine. Check for air leaks, none found. Monitored fuel trims, okay. Reset adaptive values using scan tool and cleared trouble codes. Road tested vehicle multiple. Really? Well, let's clean the throttle bar and do a relearn. So there's the induction hose off, and you can see that there's a considerable amount of carbon deposits around the throttle blade. Some guys say don't open the throttle blade, but I got the key off, so I'm going to use a toothbrush and some air intake cleaner to clean the residue around there, and then we're going to do a throttle relearn. So I got the throttle body clean, I got the engine running again. I'm going to look for reset adaptives. It's probably under system tests. I'm not sure if that's done running or not. We'll find out in a sec. Resetting adaptive values. Key on, engine off. Okay, let's go turn the engine off and the key on. Continue. Are you sure? Yes, I am. Exit. Now I don't know if that clears the codes, but I'm going to clear codes just the same. I'm going to cycle the key and start it up. Count to 5. Well, the check engine light is off now. Excuse me. It's idling a little low, it seems. 625, no, that's not low. Intake manifold pressure may have come up a little bit. I think it was 1.3 before, but now it's 1.12. Well, I'm going to cycle the key and clear the codes. So it's not setting any codes now. I'm going to see if this is a live screen. Now I'll start it up a couple times, but that appears to have fixed it. So when you do everything by the book, sometimes creates more work for yourself. I was sitting on the fence about disconnecting the battery. Had I not disconnected the battery, I wouldn't have had this problem. But then again, I was working in the dash with the heater controls and the radio unplugged and the switches on the trim unplugged. And it's always a wise idea to disable the battery when you do that. But sometimes it creates new problems, as you can see. We'll call this one fixed. Thanks for watching.